ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste my dear friend, this is video number 45 of Talks with Maharshi Ramana. This video will start with talk number 595. The two lady visitors returned in the morning and the younger one asked, "Is the experience of the highest state the same to all, or is there any difference?" Maharshi replies, "The highest state is the same and the experience is also the same. But I find some difference in the interpretations put on the highest truth." Maharshi, the interpretations are made with the mind. The minds are different and so the interpretations are different. Devotee, I mean to ask if the seers express themselves differently. Mercy, the expressions may differ according to the nature of the seekers. They are meant to guide the seekers. One seer speaks in the terms of Christianity, another in those of Islam, a third of Buddhism, etc. Is that due to their upbringing? Maharshi, whatever may be their upbringing, their experience is the same, but the modes of expression differ according to circumstances. Talk number 596. A visitor asked, Sri Bhagwan said last night that God is guiding us, then why should we make an effort to do anything? Mercy, who asked you to do so? If there was that faith in the guidance of God, this question would not have arisen. Devotee, the fact is that God guides us, then what is the use of these instructions to people? Maharshi, they are for those who seek instructions. If you are firm in your belief in the guidance of God, stick to it and do not concern yourself with what happens around you. Furthermore, there may be happiness or misery. Be equally indifferent to both and abide in the faith of God. That will be so only when one's faith is strong that God looks after all of us. Mr. Chopra asked, how shall I secure that firm faith? Maharshi, exactly. It is for such as these who want instructions. There are persons who seek freedom from misery. They are told that God guides all and so there need not be any concern about what happens. If they are of the best type, they are once believe it and firmly abide by faith in God. But there are others who are not so easily convinced of the truth of the bare statement. They ask, who is God? What is his nature? Where is he? How can he be realized? And so on. In order to satisfy them, intellectual discussion is found necessary. Statements are made, their pros and cons are argued, and the truth is thus made clear to the intellect. When the matter is understood intellectually, the earnest seeker begins to apply it practically. He argues at every moment, for whom are these thoughts? Who am I? And so forth until he is well established in the conviction that a higher power guides us, that is firmness of faith. Then all his doubts are cleared and he needs no further instructions. Devotee, we also have faith in God. Maharshi, if it had been firm, no questions would have arisen. The person will remain perfectly happy in his faith in the omnipotent devotee. Is the enquiry into the self the same as the above mentioned faith? Maharshi, the enquiry into the self is inclusive of all faith, devotion, jnana, yoga, and all. Devotee, a man sometimes finds that the physical body does not permit steady meditation. Should he practice yoga for training the body for the purpose? Maharshi, it is according to one's sanskaras, predispositions. One man will practice Hatha Yoga for curing his bodily ills, another man will trust to God to cure them, a third man will use his willpower for it, and a fourth may be totally indifferent to them, but all of them will persist in meditation. The quest for the self is the essential factor, and all the rest are mere accessories. A man may have mastered the Vedanta philosophy and yet remain unable to control his thoughts. He may have a predisposition, purva sanskara, which takes him to practice Hatha Yoga. He will believe that the mind can be controlled only by yoga and so he will practice it. Devotee, what is most suitable for gaining facilities for steady dhyana? Maharshi, it depends on one's sanskara. One may find Hatha Yoga suitable and another man Namajapa and so on. The essential point is the Atma Vichara inquiry into the self. Devotee, is it enough if I spend some time in the mornings and some time in the evenings for this Atma Vichara, or should I do it always, say even when I am writing or walking? Mercy, now what is your real nature? Is it writing, walking, or being? The one unalterable reality is being. Until you realize that state of pure being, you should pursue the inquiry. If once you are established in it, there will be no further worry. No one will inquire into the source of thoughts unless thoughts arise. So long as you think I am walking, I am writing, inquire who does it. These actions will, however, go on when one is firmly established into the self. Does a man always say, I am a man, I am a man, I am a man, every moment of his life? He does not say so, and yet all his actions are going on. Devotee, is an intellectual understanding of the truth necessary? Maharshi, yes. Otherwise, why does not the person realize God or the self at once? That is, as soon as he is told that God is all or the self is all. That shows some wavering on his part. He must argue with himself and gradually convince himself of the truth before his faith becomes firm. 20th December 1938, talk number 597. A Swiss lady, Mrs. J.C.S. Hick, reading, asked, does self-realization imply occult powers also? Maharshi, the self is the most intimate and eternal being, whereas the siddhis are foreign. The one requires effort to acquire and others does not. The powers are sought by the mind which must be kept alert, whereas the self is realized when the mind is destroyed. The powers manifest only when there is the ego. The ego makes you aware of others, and in its absence there are no others to be seen. The self is beyond the ego and is realized after the ego is eliminated. The elimination of the ego makes one unaware of others. How can the question of others arise, and where is the use of occult powers for a self-realized being? Self-realization may be accompanied by occult powers, or it may not be. If the person had sought such powers before realization, he may get the powers after realization. There are others who had not sought such powers and had attempted only self-realization. They do not manifest such powers. These powers may also be sought and gained even after self-realization, but then they are used for a definite purpose, that is, the benefit of others, as in the case of Chudala. Sikhidhavja was a pious king. His spouse was Chudala. They received instructions from a sage. The king, being busy with the administration of his kingdom, could not put the instructions into practice, whereas Chodala put them into practice and gained self-realization. Consequently, she appeared more charming than before. The king was struck by her growing charm and asked her about it. She said that all charm was due to the self, and he was only noting the charm of self realization in her. He said that she was silly. There were great tapasvis who could not realize the self even after long periods of tapas. And what about a silly woman who was all along in the family and in the worldly life? However, Chodala was not offended because she was firm in the self and only wished that her husband should realize the self and be happy. Then she then thought that unless she could prove her worth by manifesting some extraordinary powers, he could not be convinced, and she began to seek occult powers and gained them. But she did not betray them just then. Constant association with her made the king dispassionate. He began to dislike the worldly life and desired to retire into the forest for performing tapasya. So he told his wife that he wanted to leave the world for the forest. She was delighted at the development, but pretended to be very much concerned with his unkind decision. He hesitated out of consideration for her. In the meantime, his dispassion gained in force and he decided to leave home even without her consent. When the queen was sleeping one night, he suddenly left the palace by stealth and retired into the forest. He was seeking some solitary spot where he could perform his tapas. When the queen woke up, she did not find her husband and immediately found out by her occult powers what had really happened. She rejoiced in her husband's determination. She called the ministers and said that the king had gone on some important business and that the administration should be carried out on as efficiently as ever. She herself had ministered the state in the absence of the king. 18 years passed. She then knew that the king was fit for self-realization, so she appeared to him disguised as Kumbha and so on. He then realized the self and returned to rule the kingdom with the queen. The point is that occult powers are sought and gained for the benefit of others by self-realized persons also, but the sages are not deluded by the possession of such powers. Devotee, does the sage use occult powers for making others realize the self, or is the mere fact of the self-realization enough for it? Maharshi, the force of his self-realization is far more powerful than the use of all other powers. Inasmuch as there is no ego in him, there are not others for him. What is the highest benefit that can be conferred on others? It is happiness. Happiness is born of peace. Peace can reign only when there is no disturbance. Disturbance is due to thoughts which arise in the mind. When the mind itself is absent, there will be perfect peace. Unless a person had annihilated his mind, he cannot gain peace and be happy. Unless he himself is happy, he cannot bestow happiness on others. When there is no mind, he cannot be aware of others. So, the mere fact of his self realization is itself enough to make all others happy. Devotee, can samadhi come and go? Maharshi, what is samadhi? Samadhi is one's essential nature. How then can it come and go? If you do not realize your essential nature, your sight remains obstructed. What is the obstruction? Find it and remove it. So one's efforts are meant only for the removal of obstructions which hide the true vision. The real nature remains the same. When once it is realized, it is permanent. Devotee. But Mr. Brunter says that he had 1 hour's samadhi. Therefore, I ask the question, Maharshi, a practitioner gains peace of mind and is happy. That peace is the result of his efforts. But the real state must be effortless. The effortless samadhi is the true one and the perfect state. It is permanent. The efforts are spasmodic and so also their results. When the real, effortless, permanent, happy nature is realized, it will be found to be not inconsistent with the ordinary activities of life. The samadhi reached after efforts looks like abstraction from the external activities. A person might be so abstracted or live freely among people without detriment to his peace and happiness because that is his true nature of the self. 21st December 1938. Talk number 598. Sri Bhagwan shows great humor at times. He read Upmanya Bhakta Vilas, which contains a passage where Aruna Chaleswar is said to have robbed Thiru, Thirugyana Sabandar and his group of followers of all their possession by his Bhutaganas disguised as dacoits. Sri Bhagwan remarked Shiva himself was waylaid in Tiruvudal Utsava and he practiced the same trick on his devotees. Can it be so? Talk 599. A saying of Lao Tse from Tao Te Chiang was read out in the hall. By his non-action the sage governs all. Sri Bhagwan remarked, non-action is unceasing activity. The sage is characterized by eternal and intense activity. His stillness is like the apparent stillness of a fast rotating top gyroscope. Its very speed cannot be followed by the eye and so it appears to be still, yet it is rotating. So is the apparent inaction of the sage. This must be explained because the people generally mistake stillness to be inertness. It is not so. 24th December 1938, talk number 600. A young man asked in broken Tamil, how long will it be before self-realization? Maharshi, first know that self means and Maharshi, first know what self means and also what realization means. Then you will know all. Devotee, the mind must realize in the heart. Maharshi, be it so. What is mind? Devotee, mind, heart are all avatars of Perumal, Vaishnavite term for incarnate God. Mercy, if so, no need to worry ourselves. Duty on this basis, how can we realize? Maharshi, surrender the mind to Perumal, God. His avatar cannot remain independent of him. Render unto him what is his and be happy. Devotee, how to do so? Maharshi, how is the mind known to us? Owing to its activities, namely thoughts. Whenever thoughts arise, remember they are all modes of Perumal and they cannot be otherwise. This is enough. This is the surrender of the mind. Can anything exist independent of Perumal? All is Perumal alone, he acts through all, why worry ourselves? 27th December 1938, talk number 601. G.V. Subharamaya, an Andhra devotee, mentioned something about time. Maharshi, what is time? It posits a state, one's recognition of it, and also the changes which affect it. The interval between two states is called time. A state cannot come into being unless the mind calls it into existence. The mind must be held by the self. If the mind is not made use of, there is no concept of time. Time and space are in the mind, but one's true state lies beyond the mind. The question of time does not arise at all to the one established in one's true nature. Mr. Narayana Iyer, Sri Bhagwan's words are so pleasing to hear, but their import is beyond our comprehension. That seems to be far too much for us even to hope to realize. GVS, our grasp is only intellectual. If Sri Bhagwan be pleased to direct us with a few instructions, we shall be highly benefited. Maharshi, he who instructs an ardent seeker to do this or that is not a true master. The seeker is already afflicted by his activities and wants peace and rest. In other words, he wants cessation of his activities. Instead of that, he is told to do something in addition to or in place of his other activities. Can that be a help to the seeker? Activity is creation. Activity is the destruction of one's inherent happiness. If activity be advocated, the advisor is not a master but the killer. Either the creator, Dharma, or death, Yama, may be said to have come in the guise of such a master. He cannot liberate the aspirant but strengthens his fetters. Devotee, when we attempt to cease from activity, the very attempt is action, so activity seems to be inevitable. Mercy. True Thayumanawar has also alluded to it. A doctor advises a patient to take the prescribed medicine with only one condition. That condition is not to think of a monkey when he takes the medicine. Can the patient ever take the medicine? Will he not think of the monkey whenever he tries not to do so? So also, when people try to give up thoughts, their object is frustrated by their very attempt. Devotee, how then is the state to be attained? Maharshi, what is there to attain? A thing remains to be attained if it is not already attained. But here, one's very being is that someone. Why do we not then know it? Anamlai Swami, I should always try to think I am that. Mercy, why should one think I am that? He is that only. Does a man go on thinking that he is a man? Mr. Anantachari, the belief I am a man is so deep that we cannot help thinking so. Mercy, why should you think I am a man? If you are challenged, you may say, I am a man. Therefore, the thought I am a man is called up when another thought say I am an animal protrudes itself. Similarly, the thought I am that is necessary only so long as the other thought I am a man persists. Devotee, the thought I am a man is so firm that it cannot be got rid of. Maharshi, be your true self. Why should you think I am a man? Devotee, the thought I am a man is so natural. Maharshi, not so. On the other hand, I am is natural. Why do you qualify it with a man? Devotee, I am a man is so obvious way, whereas I am that is not understood by us. Mercy, you are neither that nor this. The truth is I am. I am that I am. According to the Bible also, mere being is alone natural. To limit it to being a man is uncalled for. Devotee, humorously, if votes be taken, the majority will be on my side. Laughter. Maharshi, I cast my vote also on your side. Laughter. I say also I am a man, but I am not limited to the body. It is in me that is the difference. Someone, the limitation, upadhi of being a man cannot be got rid of. Maharshi, how were you in deep sleep? There was no thought of being a man. Another, so the state of sleep must be brought about even when one is awake. Maharshi, yes, it is Jagrat Susupti. Sri Bhagwan continued, some people even say that while they sleep they are enclosed somewhere in the body. They forget that such an idea did not persist in sleep but rises up only on waking. They bring their waking state to bear upon their sleep. The lights went down and all retired. 1st January 1939, talk number 602. Dr. Emile Gaithier, S.J., Professor of Philosophy at the Sacred Heart College, Sambagnur, Kodaikanal, asked, can you kindly give me a summary of your teachings? Mercy, they are found in small booklets, particularly Who Am I? Devotee, I shall read them, but may I have the central point of your teaching from your lips? Mercy, the central point is the thing. Devotee, it is not clear. Maharshi, find the center. Devotee, I am from God. Is not God distinct from me? Mercy, who asked this question? God does not ask it. You ask it. So find who you are, and then you may find it. God is distinct from you. Devotee, but God is perfect and I am imperfect. How can I ever know Him fully? Mercy, God does not say so. The question is for you. After finding who you are, you may see what God is. Devotee, but you have found yourself. Please let us know if God is distinct from you. Mercy, it is a matter of experience. Each one must experience it himself. Devotee, oh, I see, but God is infinite and I am finite. I have a personality which can never merge into God. Is it not so? Maharshi, infinity and perfection do not admit of parts. If a finite being comes out of infinity, the perfection of infinity is marred. Thus, your statement is a contradiction in terms. Devotee, no, I see both God and creation. Maharshi, how are you aware of your personality? Devotee, I have a soul. I know it by its activities. Maharshi, did you know it in deep sleep? Devotee, the activities are suspended in deep sleep. Maharshi, but you exist in sleep. So do you know? Do you now too? So do you now too? Which of these two is your real state? Devotee, sleep and waking are mere accidents. I am the substance behind the accidents. He looked up at the clock and said that it was time for him to catch the train. He left after thanking Sri Bhagwan, so the conversation ended abruptly. 8th January 1939, talk number 603. Lady Batman came here with her daughter to visit Sri Bhagwan. She brought a letter from Pascaline Millard, Versailles, which reads as follows: 2 years have come and gone since last I crossed the threshold, thy ashram, and yet in spirit I have ever remained there. Though illusion still often veils the vision of reality revealed in the blessed silence of thy presence. Though the silver thread of self-awareness be often lost midst changing light and shadows, still the inner urge to realize the self remains and stronger grows and more insistent as grace and search go hand in hand. At times, yet rare, with no apparent cause, spontaneous awareness of the I spring up and bliss fills the heart with glowing warmth. Effortless concentration goes with this state, which while all desires do come to rest fulfilled in utmost peace, till once more the veil is drawn and illusion seeks to blur the vision of the real. Yet, what the soul has experienced and knows repeatedly as truth can neither be denied nor ever forgotten, and that which is gives constant strength to per, persevere. I pray to thee as to myself for light and guidance, that I know are ever there and at thy feet lay offerings of unchanging love. 10th January 1939. Talk number 604. A certain lady was singing a devotional song. It said, among other things, Thou art my father, thou art my mother, thou art my relations, my possessions and all, and so on. Sri Bhagwan remarked with a smile, Yes, 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 thou art this, that, and everything except I. Why not say I am thou and finish it? Talk number 605. A certain Andhra visitor gave Sri Bhagwan a slip of paper containing several questions which he desired to be answered. Sri Bhagwan took it in his hands, went through the questions and said, Maharshi, all these questions arise so long as there is one who can ask questions. If the questioner is sought and found, the questions will end of their own accord. The man said in a reply, Several people raise these points and I do not know how to meet them, hence I desire to know the fact. Vise was the word used. Maharshi, if the Vishayi, that is the basis of the facts, be understood, the Vishyas, the facts become clear. Talk number 606. Mr. Venkata Krishnaya, a lawyer devotee, visited Sri Bhagwan 10 years before and asked him what he should do to improve himself. Sri Bhagwan told him to perform Gayatri Japa. The young man went away satisfied. When he returned after some years, he asked devotee, if I meditate on the meaning of the Gayatri mantra, my mind again wonders what is to be done. Mercy, were you told to meditate on the mantra or its meaning? You must think of the one who repeats the mantra. Again the seaman had seen another reputed Mahatma who told him to say Om Namah instead of Om because pure Om is meant for sannyasis, whereas others can repeat Om Namah. When he came here, he asked Sri Bhagwan about it. Sri Bhagwan replied casually, should not others beside the sannyasi inquire into the self and realize it? 17th January 1939, talk number 607. Sri Bhagwan said to Lady Bateman, there is a fixed state, sleep, dream, and waking state are mere moments in it. They are like pictures moving on the screen in a cinema show. Everyone sees the screen as well as the pictures but ignores the screen and takes in the pictures alone. The Jnani, however, considers only the screen and not the pictures. The pictures certainly move on the screen yet do not affect it. The screen itself does not move but remains stationary. Similarly, a person travels in a train and thinks that he moves. Really speaking, he sits and reposes in his seat, and it is the train which is steaming fast. He, however, superimposes the motion of the train on himself because he has identified himself with the body. He says, I have passed one station, now another, yet another, and so on. A little consideration will show that he sits unmoved and the stations run past him, but that does not prevent him from saying that he has travelled all the way as if he exerted himself to move every foot of the way. The Jnani is fully aware that the true state of being remains fixed and stationary and that all actions go on around him. His nature does not change and his state is not affected in the least. He looks on everything with unconcerned and remains blissful himself. His is the true state and also the primal and natural state of being. When once the man reaches it, he gets fixed there, fixed once, fixed ever will be. Therefore, that state which prevailed in the days of Patala Linga cellar continues uninterrupted and with only this difference that the body remained there immobile but is now active. There is no difference between a jnani and an agyani in their conduct. The difference lies only in their angles of vision. The ignorant man identifies himself with the ego and mistakes its activities for those of the self, whereas the ego of the jnani has been lost and he does not limit himself to this body or that, this event or that, and so on. There is action in seeing in action, and also in action in seeing, seeming action as in the following instances. Number one, a child is fed while asleep. On waking up the next morning, he denies having been fed. It is a case of inaction in seeming action. For although the mother saw him take his food, the child himself is not aware. Second, the cartman sleeps in the cart when it jogs along the way in the night and yet reaches the destination and claims to have driven the cart. This is a case of action in seeming inaction. Third, a man appearing to listen to a story nods his head to the speaker, but yet his mind is otherwise active and he does not really follow the story. Fourth, two friends sleep side by side. One of them dreams that both of them travel round the globe and have varied experiences. On waking, the dreamer tells the other that both of them have been round the earth. The other treats the story with contempt. The lady protested that dream and sleep do not make any appeal to her. She was asked why then she should be careful about her bed unless she courted sleep. She said that it was for relaxation of the exhausted limbs, rather a state of auto-intoxication. The sleep state is really dull, whereas the waking state is full of beautiful and interesting things. Mercy, what you consider to be filled with beautiful and interesting things is indeed the dull and ignorant state of sleep according to the Jnani. या निष्ठा सर्वभूतनां तस्यं जागृति संयामी. The wise one is wide awake just whereas darkness rules for others. You must certainly wake up from the sleep which is holding you at present. 18th January 1939, talk number 608. Mrs. Hick Redding wrote two questions on a slip of paper and asked Sri Bhagwan if her interpretations were correct. Mercy, the self is beyond ignorance and knowledge. It is absolute. These doubts do not arise to the self, for it is pure consciousness and cannot admit of dark ignorance. Devotee, from our point of view, they arise. Maharshi, see to whom they arise. Go to their root. See if they arise after you reach their source and hold on to it. Devotee, but at the present moment, Maharshi, such discussions are theoretical and therefore will be no end to them. One must be practical and try to solve the problems for oneself by the method suggested. The method has been pointed out already. Find out to whom the questions arise. They resolve themselves immediately. Talk number 609. Lady Bateman and others came to the hall at about 3:30 p.m. In a few minutes she asked in writing if one is nearer to pure consciousness in deep sleep than in the waking state. Maharshi, the sleep, dream and waking states are mere phenomena appearing in the self, which is itself stationary and also a state of simple awareness. Can anyone remain away from the self at any moment? This question can arise only if that were possible. Devotee, is not often said that one is nearer pure consciousness in deep slumber than in the waking state. Maharshi, the question may as well be, am I nearer to myself in my sleep than in my waking state? For the self is pure consciousness. No one can ever be away from the self. The question is possible only if there is duality, but there is no duality in the state of pure consciousness. The same person sleeps, dreams, and wakes up. The waking state is considered to be full of beautiful and interesting things. The absence of such experiences makes one say that the sleep state is dull. Before we proceed further, let us make this point clear. Do you not admit that you exist in your sleep? Devotee, yes, I do. Maharshi, you are the same person that is now awake, is it not so? Devotee, yes, Maharshi. So there is a continuity in the sleep and the waking states. What is that continuity? It is only the state of pure being. There is a difference in the two states. What is the difference? The incidents, namely the body, the world, and the objects appear in the waking state, but they disappear in sleep. Devotee, but I am not aware in my sleep. Maharshi, true, there is no awareness of the body or of the world, but you must exist in your sleep in order to say now, I was not aware in my sleep. Who says so now? It is the wakeful person. The sleeper cannot say so. That is to say, the individual who is now identifying the self with the body says that such awareness did not exist in the sleep. Because you identify yourself with the body, you see the world around you and say that the waking state is filled with beautiful and interesting things. The sleep state appears dull because you were not there as an individual and therefore these things were not. But what is the fact? There is the continuity of being in all the three states, but no continuity of the individual and the objects. Devotee, yes, Maharshi. That which is continuous is also enduring, that is permanent. That which is discontinuous is transitory. Devotee, yes, mercy. Therefore, the state of being is permanent and the body and the world are not. They are fleeting phenomena passing on the screen of being consciousness, which is eternal and stationary. Devotee, relatively speaking, is not the sleep state near to pure consciousness than the waking state, Maharshi? Yes, in this sense, when passing from sleep to waking, the I thought must start, the mind comes into the play, thoughts arise, and then the functions of the body come into operation. All these together make us say that we are awake. The absence of all this evolution is the characteristics of sleep, and therefore it is nearer to pure consciousness than the waking state. But one should not therefore desire to be always in sleep. In the first place, it is impossible, for it will necessarily alternate with the other states. Secondly, it cannot be the state of bliss in which the jnani is, for his state is permanent and not alternating. Moreover, the sleep state is not recognized to be one of awareness by people, but the sage is always aware. Thus, the sleep state differs from the state in which the sage is established. Still more, the sleep state is free from thoughts and their impression to the individual. It cannot be altered by anyone's will because effort is impossible in that condition. Although nearer to pure consciousness, it is not fit for efforts to realize the self. The incentive to realize can arise only in the waking state, and efforts can also be made only when one is awake. We learn that the thoughts in the waking state form the obstacle to gaining the stillness of sleep. Be still and know that I am God. So, stillness is the aim of the seeker. Even a single effort to still at least a single thought, even for a trice, goes a long way to reach the state of quiescence. Effort is required and it is possible in the waking state only. There is the effort here. There is awareness also. The thoughts are stilled. So there is the peace of sleep gained. That is the state of the jnani. It is neither sleep nor waking but intermediate between the two. There is the awareness of the waking state and the stillness of sleep. It is called Jagrat Susupti. Call it wakeful sleep or sleeping wakefulness or sleepless waking or wakeless sleep. It is not the same as sleep or waking separately. It is Ati Jagrat, beyond wakefulness, or Ati Susupti, beyond sleep. It is the state of perfect awareness and of perfect stillness combined. It lies between sleep and waking. It is also the interval between two successive thoughts. It is the source from which thoughts spring. We see that when we wake up from sleep, in other words, thoughts have their origin in the stillness of sleep. The thoughts make all the difference between the stillness of sleep and the turmoil of waking. Go to the root of the thoughts and you reach the stillness of sleep, but you reach it in the full vigor of search. That is with perfect awareness. That is again Jagrat Susupti spoken of before. It is not dullness, but it is bliss. It is not transitory, but it is eternal. From that the thoughts proceed. What are all our experiences but thoughts? Pleasure and pain are mere thoughts, they are within ourselves. If you are free from thoughts and yet aware, you are that perfect being. Lady Bateman appreciated the discourse and thanked Sri Bhagwan. Later she said that she would be leaving the next day. Sri Bhagwan smiled and said, "You do not leave one place for another. You are always stationary. The scenes go past you. Even from the ordinary point of view, you sit in your cabin and the ship sails, but you do not move." We see a picture of a man running several miles and rushing towards us, but the screen does not move. It is the picture that moves on and away. Devotee, I see, but I can understand it only after I realize the self. Maharshi. The self is always realized. For realization, something to be gained hereafter, there is an equal chance of its being lost. It will thus be only transitory. Transitory bliss brings pain in its train. It cannot be liberation which is eternal. Were it true that you realize it later, it means that you are not realized now. Absence of realization of the present moment may be repeated at any moment in the future, for time is infinite. So too, such realization is impermanent, but that is not true. It is wrong to consider realization to be impermanent. It is the true eternal state which cannot change. Devotee, yes, I shall understand it in course of time. Maharshi, you are already that. Time and space cannot affect the self. They are in you. So also all that you see around you are in you. There is a story to illustrate this point. A lady had a precious necklace around her neck. Once in her excitement she forgot it and thought that the necklace was lost. She became anxious and looked for it in her home but could not find it. She asked her friends and neighbors if they knew anything about the necklace. They did not. At last, a kind friend of hers told her to feel the necklace round the neck. She found that it had all along been round her neck and she was happy. When others asked her later if she found the necklace which was lost, she said, "Yes, I have found it." She still felt that she had recovered a lost jewel. Now did she lose it all? It was all along around her neck, but judge her feelings. She is happy as if she had recovered a lost jewel. Similarly, with us, we imagine that we would realize that self sometime, whereas we are never anything but the self. Devotee, I feel that I am transplanted into some other land than the earth. Sri Bhagwan, while looking into some correspondence, heard it, smiled, and said, "This is the kingdom of heaven." The kingdom of heaven mentioned in the Bible and this world are not two different regions. The kingdom is within you, says the Bible, so it is. The realized being sees this as the kingdom of heaven, whereas the others see it as this world. The difference lies only in the angles of vision. Devotee, how can we deny the world and the people therein? I hear some music. It is sweet and grand. I recognize it to be Wagner's music. I cannot claim it to be mine. Mercy, does Wagner or his music exist apart from you? Unless you are there to say that it is Wagner's music, can you be aware of it? Without being aware of it, can it be said to exist? To make it more clear, do You recognize Wagner's music in your deep sleep, and yet you admit that you exist in sleep. So it is clear that Wagner and music are only your thoughts. They are in you and not out of you. Devotee, it is beautiful. Compiler's remarks: everyone is apt to be confused from time to time. Although the truth is heard and understood, at times it is forgotten and mistakes are committed. When facts face the person, knowledge gives place to ignorance and confusion is the result. But the sage alone can give the right turn to our thoughts from time to time. That is the necessity for satsanga. That is association with the wise. So this video is completed. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar, my dear friends. Namaskar. Next video number 46 will start with talk number 610. Thanks.